Welcome everyone to the Minions at the Zoo Tuesday edition. I'm Rekeeper this evening, SkepTock, and with me I have Minions Prospero.
Hello.
And the Harry Channel.
Hopefully.
Just in the, in the very nick of time. Nice to have you both join me here on this Tuesday evening. And so what?
30.8.
If you wonder what Prospero is making reference to, she's talking about the number of viewers of Tucker Carlson's stream. This is up against numbers, seriously, that, for example, MSNBC will get 120,000 viewers in its 8 o'clock hour, and CNN will get about twice that many. And and Tucker got 30 million the first time he opened his mouth.
He uploaded it at 6 o'clock.
Do you know how fast they're sending him money? Do you know how fast that money's coming in? That is just so fun.
Oh
anyway,
my God!
So, yeah, it's a big day for Tucker. Good for him. He's way too conservative for me. I'm sorry. I'm just not that.
You ought to hear this one. You really do need to listen to it.
No, to the I absolutely will be listening to it.
He's certainly not. Oh God!
Later on,
God,
I've listened to Tucker
about
so
Lindsey
much.
Graham is
what's that? Oh, I'm sure he excoriates him.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yes.
Yes.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with listening to somebody who's more conservative. It's just, I mean, okay. For one thing, I don't think you, Skep, you listen to somebody just because they agree with you. Right. It's interesting to hear what Tucker's going to say. Yes. A, because it's interesting, and B, because this is what people are going to be talking about. So you want to listen just to be informed of what's going to be talked about at the water cooler. You're retired, but there's always a water cooler substitute, like the old guys in front of the hardware store, those guys.
Shop. Yeah. Right, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's good to listen to, every now and then listen to what crazy leftists say. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to believe any of it. But I think it's okay that Tucker's kind of conservative. I mean, he's kind of a populist and sometimes kind of an idiot, but I think he's a decent human being, and he certainly represents a viewpoint that's worth knowing about.
No, very, very much so. I listen to him religiously, just as I listen to Brianna Gray, with whom I have substantial agreement in many areas. And she was Bernie Sanders' treasurer. I mean, can't get any more. Now, she's left libertarian, which is, strikes a chord with me. We're very similar in a lot of ways.
Well, left libertarian is kind of an oxymoron, but not entirely.
Yeah, it's like libertarian with exceptions. It's small L libertarian, but, it would just basically with carve-outs, I guess. Is the
I guess the thing is
that
leftism is so associated with the big state.
Yeah, and see
that left libertarian sounds.
How do you
round those edges?
Right, exactly.
Or square that circle.
Square the circle. Really, that's what I was trying to say. And I'm not sure how you get there.
I don't.
She describes herself that way. I'm just a libertarian. I just want to be left alone, basically. Just leave me the fuck alone.
I plunge below the horizon, and I'm depending on the quiz that you're given.
Yeah.
Plot 2 ticks to the left, 2 ticks to the right, or dead center. Mm-hmm. So it's, I just don't want to be bothered by the government, but can understand, to some extent, a need for a certain amount of the regulatory state.
Well, absolutely, and libertarians don't want to get rid of all of the.
Well, some of the low libertarians do.
Yeah, some of them won't, but I'm talking about people who take serious. Take this stuff seriously and take serious positions, positions that make sense.
Yeah, constitutionalists.
Yes.
People who find it rather ass-chapping that the executive has grown past the ability for the legislative to control it.
Hmm. Do you remember I told you about my ill-conceived and ill-fated first time on YouTube, where I got dragged into a stream over on Academic Agents channel?
Oh God!
And there were, there were about 1,000 people there, and somehow he decided that I should be, as the lone American, that I should be the expert on America.
Sure.
Yeah, because who doesn't memorize tax law from the state of New York when they live in California, right? Because why wouldn't I, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
This is England.
but one of the things I did say, which I didn't necessarily regret, was that, Trump being as unpopular as he was with so many people, I hoped that, maybe one silver lining coming out of it all would be that there would be some amount of taking back of executive power, because because the needle's only going in one direction each time. That somehow some of it needs to be reclaimed, and you can't expect everybody to go all George Washington and start talking about Cincinnatus. Those people don't exist anymore. The ones who, out of principle, give up power.
Right.
So if we had an unpopular president, you would think that would just result in pulling back more of the power from the executive. But I think they realize that they don't want to do anything that's going to screw up the party for them when they come back.
Bingo.
And so,
Exactly.
so nothing good ever happens, because all it is a bunch of pigs at the trough trying to figure out whose snout can get in deeper.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I had noticed about Tucker. The longer he did commentary, was the more disenchanted he became with both parties, and the persistent lying. I mean, the more that he and Glenn Greenwald,
He's offended by the lies.
he is offended by the absence of journalism.
Integrity.
Well, yes, both together and both separately.
Yes.
Which offends
jointly and severally.
Which offends me as well, because were there more integrity, just in general, and
Life would be so much easier.
well, it would be so much easier if journalists did their goddamn jobs.
Right.
But instead, every news feed you see is carrying the same story, worded the same way. It's, geez, as if somebody handed out a memo to them and they just vomited it out for their readers and consumers. And it's nobody asks any questions. Tucker kind of previewed this with that quick little video that he'd done a couple of weeks ago about a bit of a mea culpa in that he had participated in it, the shouting past one another, and not dealing with what the actual stories are. He makes a point, this is not a very major part of his video, but it is causing some people to dismiss his entire video tonight. He makes a point of bringing up the story about the Air Force whistleblower and the UFO information. Yep. And he said that was something that back in the day would have been a bombshell and would have had reporters crawling all over it. The New York Times ignored it. WAPO pretty much the same. It's just being waved away as if it is of no interest whatsoever that there's a guy. I mean, we don't know the sanity of this individual. We don't know their motivation. None of that. But those were the things that journalists used to suss out. Who's this guy? What's his background?
Yeah.
What departments has he been in within the Air Force? Does
That used
he
to be an invaluable service that they used to do for
Yes.
us. But they don't do that anymore, do they? They build a narrative and then present scenarios that seem to support that.
and they ignore difficult to answer questions
Yeah, boy, do they ever.
um,
You got that right.
because they don't want controversy, because they don't want accountability.
Correct.
It all comes down to them not wanting any accountability.
I would agree.
Ben Bradley put his nuts on the chopping block
On
during
more than one
Watergate.
occasion. But yeah, Watergate was for real.
And I mean,
That
I
may have been-
despise
that may have
Carl
been
Bernstein.
The
But-
biggest risk he took.
Yes, I despise Carl Bernstein. I think
We all-
he's a
we all
nasty
do.
little
All right thinking-
toad
all
of a
right
human being.
Thinking people do.
And I know how invested, to some extent, my parents' generation, at least the people that I was around, were in politics and keeping it to the right and law and order and all of that, because the 60s had been incredibly chaotic for people who had already lived through the goddamn Depression and World War II.
Yeah.
And the last thing they needed was that bullshit about Watergate. Because they'd gotten a look at McGovern, and he scared the shit out of them. Rightly so. I mean, he
Let me ask you a question, because McGovern, the guy was a bomber pilot in World War II. This is not a shrinking violet,
he was a hand clasper by the time he ran for president, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, oh, very much so. Well, he'd always sort of been that kind of, prairie politician, agree with everybody and sniff the political winds.
Well, he's also a hand
always
ringer,
alert to the
though.
main chance. What?
And he was also a hand ringer, though. There was something very mealy-mouthed about him.
He had kind of a reedy voice. It was a
Unfortunate.
high-pitched voice, and
Television began
not
driving
his
it.
fault. Right, exactly, and the television was not his friend at all.
Well, also, he just seemed... I mean, I was 14. I thought he was great because he wanted good things for everybody.
Yeah,
And only good people want good things for everybody, right?
that's right.
And then...
14-year-old girls. It's just a perfect world.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
And-
who's against the good things? He says he wants good things. Me too. I love him.
I know, and what's disturbing to me is the number of people today who are functioning at the 14-year-old girl level.
God, you're not wrong. And it's a
'Cause-
huge percentage of the population, and these people vote.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell
Hallelujah.
you what happened when I began talking about how I thought people who wanted good things are good and all that stuff around my dad. He was like, okay, then, how do we accomplish these good things that you? So by the time I was 16, I was pretty much over that stage.
Mhm.
Yeah, pretty much over that stage. And in a weird way, a little sad to see how the whole end of Nixon played out. He actually is a rather tragic figure for somebody who was...
If you don't see
incredibly
tragedy
bright.
in the Nixon arc, then you should
Yeah.
consider not reading literature ever again.
Yeah, growing a soul.
Consider growing a soul. Exactly.
Yeah, because I understand the genesis of his paranoia. I mean, he was always a bit insecure anyway, but the whole 1960 election was enough to make somebody roll their eyes now and again. And
You can't be a
Nope.
prominent California Republican and not be paranoid, because they
you know-
literally
Yes.
are out to get you in this state.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
You know, because
Yeah.
when he was working his way up, you know, he had to deal with Pat Brown and that whole apparatus that basically just sort of ran everything, or maybe still does, don't know. But yeah, so to actually rise to prominence in California, you got to be you need a certain amount of paranoia, because even within the Republican Party, there were a lot of dirty tricks.
Mm-hmm.
If they thought you were a John Bircher,
God.
oh God forbid, you were in trouble.
Yep.
Yeah, if you ever said hello to somebody in the John Birch Society, there you go.
The thing about
You
the
know.
John Birch Society is if you sat down with somebody from it, you know, you had a time machine, you go back and you talk to them, you'd agree on 80% of stuff. It's just the hard 20 that really separates you.
Yes, and that was unfortunate, because what could draw people was the 80, and they were overlooking for whatever reason, or maybe not even fully aware of the other 20. But you know, Nixon had cause to be concerned about how the Democrat machine was going to come after him in 72, but he just let the little voices control his common sense, of which the man had plenty. He was
a
not
Navy supply. He was a Navy supply officer.
And I mean, as far as foreign policy goes,
Yeah.
because of the quagmire, I hate to use that word, that Vietnam had become, people overlook just a large amount of savvy that Nixon had
Yeah.
in regard to the realpolitik of the world at large.
Well, just read the man's books. Read his books, and you get a really
He was
good
a
sense of.
bright man.
I read what was the book of his? Statecraft to Soulcraft, I think it was, and that's actually a very interesting book. And some of the later interviews with him
changed my life.
Well, it was one of the books that was on the bookshelf when I was a kid, and I just read everything on there, from the Family Medical Guide to the Time Life, history of the solar system to or history of the universe. And then I read that, but there were two other books that were on there. One of them, well, later was Nixon, because that was, you know, I was older by the time that happened, but I read that. And then the other one was Free to Choose by Milton Friedman.
Yeah.
So, luckily I had a good home library to draw on.
Yeah.
So the part of me that read Friedman said, Nixon, what were you doing with price controls? Dude, here, I got a book I want to loan you. But I mean, when it came to foreign relations and a lot of just sort of, like you said, realpolitik, Nixon was not a dumb guy. He was actually pretty damn smart. He was pretty savvy, I guess is what you should say. I don't know if he was smart, but he was very savvy in a lot of ways. But the paranoia was obviously very real.
Yes, it was. And
by the way, the great title that I got to read at home was The Road to Serfdom.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That was Dad's economic contribution. He never talked to me about economics. He really didn't know that much about it, but he had that book. I don't think he ever read it, but he had it, and I read it. Really,
my poor dad, being in the law,
influenced my little fifth grade self.
Did not have a lot of nonfiction. He had some, but I think fiction was probably an escape from the constant reading.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, back in the day, before there were thousands of law clerks working in thousands of firms, lawyers had to read their own shit. And if he could keep up with current affairs by knocking off 2 newspapers a day, because we got both the Globe and the Herald, which was good.
Yeah.
You know, we got both newspapers.
Yeah.
Got both points of view.
Here at Bob's Country Bunker, we got both kinds of music, country and Western.
Yeah.
Both points of view.
But also, you know, I mean, I can point to a time where people asked me how I knew what was going on in the news, and I said, well, You read the headline, you read the first paragraph, and you read the last, and you've pretty much read the article. The rest is expository stuff. Because there were people who knew how to write. And so you would basically get the thesis, and then you'd get to a conclusion. And if it was something that looked particularly interesting or meaty, I might read it when I got home from school, but I was taking a glance on the way out the door.
Did you read the Wall Street Journal at all? Because that's what I read.
Yeah.
And the thing about the journal was...
we didn't get the journal.
The front page of the journal, all it is a synopsis of everything else that's inside.
Right.
It isn't like big splashy, Jane Mansfield with her boobs sticking out, on a cold day. It's none of that crap. It's not that sort of stuff above the fold. It's just columns of synopses, and then it'd say the rest of the story is on this page, right? And if you did nothing but read the front page of the Wall Street Journal, you were doing pretty damn well. Yeah, and I did that for a long time.
Did that for a long time.
Well, I would have wished that we had subscribed. I wish we had, but
yeah, no, that's a good one. If you're short on time.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that we had the Globe and the Herald, which both had decent contributors, editorialists, being picked up from New York Times, LA Times, Wall Street Journal, and their own editorial writers. I mean, most major cities had decent writers for a good long while in their own stable. And that went by I'd say the 70s is when it began for real. And then, by the 90s, it was all syndicate op-ed stuff.
Yeah.
Which was fine because, I got introduced to people that I never would have encountered if it had just been locals. But at the same time...
Hey, let me explain the chart that's on the screen just really quick. Let me just interject quickly. A lot of people think that I am some kind of conservative or something like that, and quite the contrary. I'm very libertarian. I'm because I am so far against the government involving itself in restricting cultural issues. It puts me in the bottom left quadrant, which anyway. So I'm not
up to a point. I'd like to see them start administering these tests with some of the current agenda regarding the transgender children.
Oh my God.
And see how rapidly we both shoot up to the authoritarian right.
That nudged me a couple squares when you
I
start hearing stuff about
people down in people down in the green quadrant where I am, like law and order also. We like protecting children too. I don't see any contradiction with wanting government to have a light touch, to still be an effective policing agency.
Maybe it would depend. It would depend on the crafting of the questions, mainly because a judge in Florida has stopped their ban.
Would depend on the details, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, a judge ruled against the ban on gender-affirming care in Florida.
He ruled against the ban on the
gender-affirming care.
Or I'm sorry, gender affirming or gender mutilating, or is it both?
Affirming apparently is the new euphemism.
Yeah,
it is the worst term ever.
As long as everybody's happy.
He's a Clinton appointee, and he said that parents know best. And okay. By and large, most of us do not want to see interruption of parental rights. However, there are exceptions, and there always have been exceptions. Whether they were in law through the state or through the community at large.
You're
There's
not
exceptions with
permitted to raise your
beating,
daughters for
starving,
meat, for example.
raping.
Mhm.
You can't put, no, but so all those parents of anorexics should right away get them gastric bypass surgery and help them on their weight loss journey. Right? Because that's weight loss affirming.
I guess. Is
Yeah.
weight loss good, or are we even allowed to say that?
Well, it is for anorexics, isn't it? I mean, according to the current logic, if a 5-year-old says cut my dick off, you're supposed to do it because you're an affirming parent. And this asshole judge acted as if there is no difference. And I mean, honest to God, somebody replied to it. Yeah, I want to see this judge do homeschooling.
Have you seen the cluster maps?
It's next.
Have you seen the cluster maps of the transsexualism phenomenon? It's clustered around Seattle, Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, New York, Boston.
New Haven and Hartford, no doubt.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what I'm. Yeah, and it's mostly girls. It's mostly girls.
Sure is.
Good God. I mean, you want to talk about what is genuine misogyny?
Yep. The idea of it being chic to have a transsexual child.
Of these fucking Munchausen by
transsexual
proxy.
child, to have a yes, exactly, to have a transsexual child as a fashion accessory, basically, right?
Yeah, like a toy poodle.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So brave.
So
Yeah, so much wrath.
As
Sorry,
hard as
much
it is
wrath.
to have gender dysphoria, it's that much harder to be a parent of somebody with gender dysphoria because the parent, what can they do? All they can just do is meekly try to be allies, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's who the real victim is the parents. So we should applaud them and how brave they are.
Yeah,
They're the ones really being
except they're handing out gender
courageous.
dysphoria diagnoses like they used to hand out Good and Plenty at the movie theater.
Yeah. To care so much and to be able to do so little, it must be very frustrating for those parents.
God, 10 years ago, as a friend of
Can't
mine
keep this up.
recently used the term.
Yeah.
You guys are going to love this term. Percentage dust.
Percentage dust? Explain, please.
Yes. How many people genuinely had dysphoria?
Hmm.
And she said it was percentage dust.
Because
Because remember,
right?
it was like 0.03%.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's
Or
way less than 1%.
0.003. That's
Yeah, it's
percentage dust.
Yeah, it's 0.03 is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it does happen. I mean,
Of
and
course
I
it
just
It doesn't
happens.
happen often.
and there are people who are adults, not parents doing
Yes.
this to kids, but adults who have made this choice and who at least just believing what people say, right? They
Right.
say it's made their life better. Okay.
Well,
And the first one I was ever exposed to was Walter Carlos. I enjoyed Walter Carlos's work. I knew who Walter Carlos was, and here I am, just a little kid, and I'm going, "This is really cool." And suddenly it's like Wendy Carlos, and I had to go, "What?
Yep.
Is that a thing? What?" Because I mean, I was young, and this was news to me, and I can say that Wendy Carlos has gone on to live as a woman for decades, still alive, and seems to work.
Yeah.
Seems to work. And, I'm not going to be a dick about it, but that's not the same thing as teachers
Trending.
trying to basically fraud these kids into getting acceptance by going down these, I'm not using the G word carefully. That's a totally different thing than hiding stuff from parents and trying to do all the things that these people are doing. You know, and it's not like going to the Pride Parade and, you know, you see the S&M display on the floats.
They're just trying to coach the kids. They're not trying to do anything.
They're just trying to help them live their best lives by exposing them to stuff
sadomasochistic themes and bondage.
Well, even as an adult, children. I would still want to see a sign on a door saying, "Hey, you know, unless you're into something really weird, you probably don't want to walk through this door." You know, just maybe a heads up. Just a heads up that I'm about to walk into Akbar and Jeff's sodomy hut, you know, so that I can choose not to do that.
You feel like a bigot because you have those sensibilities. Having those sensibilities is evidence of your bigotry, white man.
Well, I'm going to be called a bigot regardless, so what do I care?
Yes.
I mean, might as well just be true to myself and not worry about it.
Being born.
Abraham, it's original sin, man. Original sin.
I'm embracing it, man.
Just being white is you are a racist. Little baby in a crib, racist. Totally.
Well,
racist.
I find it funny when people call me a racist because I don't care about race. I mean, people say, well, you're saying you don't see it. No, I literally don't care. It's the least interesting thing about most people. It's like, oh, congratulations on your skin color. I don't care.
Yeah, it's like hair color, eye color, shoe size. Why would I give a shit?
Yeah, if you want to talk about your culture, like, you know, it's like people that I met who left, Persians who left Iran.
Yes.
And they tell you about the story of how they got out and why they moved and stuff. Like you hear about Gad Sad talking about it. That's interesting. Yeah. But it's not his racial composition that's interesting. It's the struggle that he had to make to get out of
Lebanon,
Lebanon. And, you know, like the whole story about trying to get through the checkpoints and then being on that plane.
Christ.
And the release, the emotional release as they basically cleared their airspace. And he knew that for the first time in his life, he was safe.
Yeah, and when his parents were kidnapped, when they went back to visit relatives. And the kind of stuff that people just can hardly believe that other people live like that because our little first world problems are absorbing all of our attention.
Yeah, there are plenty of bad things that happen in the first world, though.
Oh, of course.
We just choose not to think about it because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Hey, one thing about first world problems, some of them are real problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They are.
The fact that the number of people who were shot over the Memorial Day weekend in Chicago went unremarked.
Great example.
The number of children that are dying due to gang violence. And when I say children, it's the 13 and unders. Yeah, you can, like a 9-year-old can make the moral choice of being a mule or not. Come on.
Philadelphia and Baltimore are practically, and Detroit are as bad as Chicago.
Yeah. Well, it's a race to the bottom. Congratulations.
It is.
And I know somebody who moved to just outside of Baltimore.
Hell.
Well,
a friend of mine actually moved to just outside of Baltimore, and I'm like,
wow.
Huh?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it would depend on where.
Yeah, Annapolis is gorgeous.
Bowie's not terrible.
No, it was she did it because she actually, because of some of the hobbies that she has and some of the people that she knows who are already located there, she was able to take her California bucks and, you know, just buy a house really easily and then move to outside of Baltimore. I'm like, I hope it works out for you. Seems like a bad idea on the face of it to me. I mean, and this is coming from a Californian. It's like, I wouldn't move to Baltimore.
Well, neither would I, but, you know, like a place like Severna Park isn't all that far from Baltimore or Annapolis.
Well, there's really nice suburbs of Detroit, too. You know, I might even be able to buy that Frank Lloyd Wright house I've always wanted, right?
Yeah, you go north. Sure. You go north up the lake, honey. Things get rich. Grosse Point, you know.
Grosse Point, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan looks like fun.
Yeah, but I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't move to Maryland. You couldn't pay me to move to Maryland. They elected Larry Hogan governor. They're too stupid to be living there.
Well, I'm just saying that there's a lot.
Of course, we elected Northrop.
I don't dislike most of the United States. The number of places that I'm just going to write off completely just for reasons is like, I don't want to live in Miami and I don't want to live in Baltimore. You know, I mean, that's like a hard no. No.
I won't live in California. I won't live in New York, and I won't live in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my hard no's. then in states, there are places that I would cope. But I don't want to really move north ever. And I don't want to move too far south either.
Mhm.
But yeah, I agree with you with Miami.
Well, I think
I'd like to go to South Beach to see the architecture only because I love deco.
Okay, did you see the Stephen Fry show where he basically went to all of the states in the US?
No, I did not, and I need to find that, I guess.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
actually
haven't
really
seen that
interesting.
either.
Well, he was interviewed and he was asked, is there one place in the US that you just really genuinely did not like? And him being the big old gay Brit that he is, surprisingly, you know, he's not into that weird stuff.
No.
You know, that weird pride parade stuff.
No.
He did not like Miami Beach. He didn't like sort of the weird decadence of it. He didn't like the conspicuous consumption of it. There was nothing about
The
Miami
phoniness of it. Yeah.
that he wanted to have anything to do with. I mean, yeah, you could spend half a day looking at some of the Art Deco, and other than that, no.
Yeah, there's some food I wouldn't mind eating, but
I can find food in other places. There's plenty of food here. There's plenty of food in Vegas. There's plenty of food all. I mean, go to Morimoto's place in Philadelphia. I
but how
don't
many
need to
Cubans?
go to Miami.
How many Cubans? Okay, I wouldn't mind having some Cuban food, but then I'd be like either heading toward Key West or the fuck back north.
Cuban food is pretty good.
Yeah, ropa vieja is delicious.
Yeah.
But
I'm not going to restructure my life around Cuban food, you know, whereas I might do it for pizza.
Yeah.
You know, Italian food, you know, I'm all in.
You might sell out for Chicago then, right?
Oh, no, don't make me move to Northern Italy.
Yeah, wouldn't it be horrible to have to live in Tuscany?
Yeah.
Or
She
even
says
Umbria.
hopefully. Yeah, well, dude, anywhere. Because you can get on a train and get to the rest of it.
Right.
Yeah, in 2 hours or
Yes.
less. Yeah, it's
That's all
everything's
gorgeous
well
up there.
connected. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love it when Europeans scold the Americans for not having great rapid transit, you know, and it's like, do you understand size? I mean, do you know how many of you fit in Texas? You
Yeah.
know,
That's the truth.
it's just, and you don't even want to talk about Alaska. But
Alaska is bigger than the Iberian Peninsula. That's France, Spain, and Portugal.
Yeah. Suck it, Europe.
yeah. It is kind of funny though when you like line up Great Britain over top of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And you go, yeah, they are. They're kind of shaped the same too, you know.
Yeah. Well, roughly, yeah.
Yeah, one's a little larger. Okay, UK, you win, but that's the only thing. Yeah, there are a lot of places I don't want to live. I don't want to live in a dense urban environment again.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked in one as a young person in the summer and learned I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to like it. I find that when I visit dense urban, after about 5 days, I start to twitch. You know, it's like, yes, the museums are great, but
I've got to leave.
it's too much noise.
Right.
There's too much noise, and
You
of
find
course,
yourself desiring open space.
yeah, or just at least the sounds that exist away from
nature.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, how do you ever hear
Home.
tree frogs in New York City? Now, it's really funny because I had somebody recently talk about having walked down our street. They'd moved here from New Jersey. And they couldn't believe the amount of noise coming from the woods behind us. And I was like, there's tree frogs. I said, see, to me, that's the music of summer.
Yeah.
Tree frogs and cicadas crickets, a bullfrog occasionally going, boom. You know, some basso profundo there.
Yep.
Some dumbass mockingbird under a streetlight singing the song of all the people of the bird community.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I don't know where they lived, how much traffic noise they had, how much just general hum existed around them. We do get a lot of traffic noise here because
Really?
it's that quiet that 295 and 95 meet up very nearby,
Right.
and Route 1 is near. So we can hear a fair bit. Memorial Day weekend was just like one goddamn long siren run. But I still could hear the tree frogs. And I can see the Big Dipper.
So speaking of tree frogs, now that it looks like Donald Trump is going to get the nomination from the Republicans, what the fuck is going to happen? I think they're going to run Biden.
Yeah.
They're treating him. This really is turning into Weekend at Bernie's, where he just is a symbol of the power, and there's kind of a cabal of people in back who are making the actual decisions based on what political favors are being traded moment to moment. Which is a terrible way to run a country, obviously. There's no agenda. There's no plan. There's no, you know,
And the opposition sure doesn't have one.
yeah, and yeah, this is the problem. And the Republicans just want to come in. We just want to do the same things, only we want to hand out money to our friends.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get anything different with.
And
the
their friend
Republicans.
list overlaps rather significantly.
Might get a little bit less vicious taxation from the Republicans, but you get a bunch of backward shit from the Republicans too. So
And they'll spend more.
yeah, and the Democrats will not lie to you. They're going to say, "Hey, we're going to come in and spend like hell," and then they will. They will do that. Republicans come in and say, "Well, we're the conservative party. We're the ones who don't do any spending." That's all they do is come in and spend,
And they actually spend more over time.
over time.
Historically.
That's how they get themselves reelected.
Well, they love nothing better than a proxy war.
Right, exactly.
And we've got a hot one going on, and they can always find another to start.
Yeah. So, where does this leave us? Do you think that
Fucked.
because I don't sense that I don't sense the Trump fatigue. The left, yeah, they're still out there. The Democrats are still out there, and they hate Trump and with all their fury. But I don't sense that their ranks have grown. If anything, I think that Trump has gotten more and more support. If I look over at 538, and let's look at this on President and General Election Morning Consult has Biden defeating DeSantis 43-40 and Biden defeating Trump 43-41. Both those polls are rated B minus, which is fairly good actually.
For as crappy as most polls are now.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Another thing, let's see, Rasmussen rates Biden via DeSantis 44-44. That is even. And Biden Trump. This is the premise poll, and Biden 42, Trump 44. So that was Trump +2. The other premise poll, which is a B-rated poll, Biden Trump was +6. So Seems to be some
Wiggle room among the garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. It is number one. It's 2023.
Good, great point.
It is the current year,
Yeah,
It is current year.
which is
Number-
not the election year.
you're right. Number two, if the Republicans hadn't scuppered themselves in the 2022 midterms, which they did with all the glory they could, and it's not all to do with the damn Supreme Court ruling on abortion. They don't know how to handle that. They're not fit to lead to begin with. It was easy to handle. They just go out there and keep quoting Ruth Bader Ginsburg on how shit a decision Roe v. Wade was and why it was. And reiterate that states' rights exist and states have the ability to set their own
Right.
parameters on this, and y'all can vote with your feet, right? They also couldn't swing their way out of the sopping wet paper bag that the pandemic had become.
Yeah.
God,
Well,
because they could have easily moved to impeach Biden
Yep.
or merely demand a competency hearing.
What is that? An Article 25
Yeah,
hearing?
I think that's Kamala's job, isn't it?
technically
supposed
it's
to
a
lead them,
cabinet
yeah.
level job. They could have started applying financial pressure. The House of Representatives could have defunded every cabinet level department contingent upon Article
Well-
25. All that had to do would be more back channeling. I mean, I'm talking about backroom conversations going, for the love of Christ. Pull your heads out of your ass. What I'm waiting to see, and this could be very, very crucial, will Harris be his running mate? Should he even live?
Okay. Well, let me just read this one quick part, since you were talking about this exactly. Section 4 of the Article 25. Whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or of other such body as Congress may by law provide transmit to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting President. And then thereafter, when the President transmits to the President pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume the powers and duties of his office unless the Vice President and a majority of either the principal officers as provided above, blah, 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 vote no, basically.
Mm-hmm. It's like a no confidence vote.
It is.
To some
That's
extent.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's
It's
like
designed
an
to be a no
incompetency
confidence.
vote.
The Joe
Yeah.
confidence vote.
Yeah. Show competence vote, yes. But it is there are myriad ways to play that.
But anyway, the way that ends up coming out is that if Congress gets together and determines by 2/3 vote of both houses, so 2/3 votes of both houses that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the vice president shall continue to discharge the same as acting president. Have you ever had a thing where you had the Democrats in charge of the House and Senate, and they had tremendous majorities, like 3/4 in each? They can just vote the president out.
Yep. Yep. Just because they haven't tried it yet doesn't mean they won't. It's a little bit like that nuclear option, right, Harry
Yeah.
Reid?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right.
And goddamn Mitch McConnell. I'm sorry, on the principle of it. On the principle of it.
What did poor old Mitch do?
Well, he didn't
Shame.
rescind.
Oh, allegedly.
He didn't rescind
Yeah.
it.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
And it would have spoken volumes if Mitch had said that nuclear option, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
They actually could have, if they could have convinced the House, I think, enacted some legislation to prevent that from occurring again.
But
Mitch enjoyed it too much. Which I knew was going to happen. I knew once you let Pandora's box fly open, there's no stuffing that shit back in. And God, it's just so, it's disgusting to me. What Harry Reid did is disgusting. What Mitch McConnell did was, no, I'm grateful to God that we don't have Merrick Garland on the Supreme Court.
Oh, God, yes.
You know, and I guess for that, I might chew on my ethics a little bit. But, you know, Gad said every now and then will bring up and remind us all about deontological ethics. And that we're not supposed to have
as
these
well
little...
he should.
Yes, he should, because somebody needs to remind us that we're being hypocrites.
You're not wrong.
And we all are. We all know we are, I mean, at least those of us who are self-aware. In other words, not Generation Blue Hair. And by blue hair, I no longer mean my grandmother and mother's generation.
It used to be the olds that had the blue
hair.
I
know.
Yeah.
Now it's the youngs. It's pretty funny. I'm so tired of the squishy ethics.
The youngs. That's so funny.
The youngs. The youths.
The Utes. Them Utes.
Them Utes. I literally heard a Boston cop one time say the Utes were upsetting the adults. And I was like, youths and adults? Oh, God, youths and adults.
Mm.
How fascinating. But the youngs are the blue. Well, or the magenta. Or really, really bad shades of green that don't occur in nature.
Have either of you looked at this thing that the UFO article was in, the debrief? I've never really looked at them because, you know, you every time you see a new source or a new person, you go, oh, I'm going to get the figure out what the cut of their jib is. You go to like the little thing it says about. Like there was an article from Quartz. And so I go to About Quartz, and it's like, we're a progressive, evidence-based something or other, you know, okay, translates to liberal jerk-off rag. Okay. But I'm not sure what this, the debrief is about. I mean, they have science, tech, space, defense, aerospace, UAP, which I guess is the UFO acronym now.
Yes.
So is this like Omni Magazine 2023, but without the science fiction? I mean, what are you familiar with this outfit?
No.
I'll give you the link because this is the article. Because I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how much gravitas these people have. Let's see, where did this go?
When it comes to thinking that people have recovered debris from craft from another planet, a group of people that have snuck up on us all unaware, you know, we who have, you know, mile long, essentially horizontal wells that listen for variations in the gravitational universe for these gravitational waves. You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, unless there's some cheat code that we
Yeah.
don't know about for interstellar travel. I mean, it's easy to list all of the reasons why
Space
it's
is
BS.
really, really big. It's
Space
so
is really, really
just
big.
too fucking big for that to be true.
Well, if you
I'm
had an
sorry.
organism that lived on a completely different time scale than humans, it would be different. I mean, certainly for anything that's remotely like us, little
Sure.
green men,
Yeah.
it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you had some sort of life form
I
where
hear ya.
the idea of 100,000 years is just not a big deal,
That's morning coffee.
yeah.
Yep.
So,
And-
I mean, it would be foolish to just rule it out completely, but I think if you're going to go Occam's razor, I'll go mass psychosis. I'll start looking for moldy rye bread at a bakery before I start assuming that it's extraterrestrial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anybody smell Piltdown Man?
Well, I mean, I would like to hear what they have to say before, casting any kind of final judgment on it. But
This
speed of light and how much it hurts when you hit a meteorite. Because in Star Trek, we have all this great science fiction. Deflector dish, the thing that keeps the Enterprise from just being riddled with holes as they go at incredibly high speeds, and just bits of space crap just constantly perforating the Enterprise. So all it is just like a vacuum-filled corpse mobile that looks like Swiss cheese. Without the deflector dish, you just don't go anywhere. That's
We're going to have to solve the problem of implementing wormhole technology. We're never going to be able to move matter safely through space at the speeds that we would need to, and not encounter debris. And the debris that you encounter can hit you at something, at say 2% of the speed of light. Let me tell you something. That the kinetic energy that is not to be trifled with.
you're gonna have a bad day.
You're gonna have a bad day, and it's gonna happen.
And
really
and so's
fast.
what hit you gonna have a bad day. But the slower moving object always takes the most damage.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be moving at the same rate of shit that hits us. I wasn't saying I'm dismissing Harry.
Oh,
I just
I know.
Piltdown Man.
Yeah, I'm not giving anybody any money.
I'm with-
That's
I'm
for
with
Oh, no,
starts.
but-
So I think this could be a hoax. I think that this could be a put on.
Oh, I think there's
not even necessarily a put on, but just something that is. Well, no, I actually do. I think that there's probably a lie at the bottom of this.
Yeah, just show me the evidence. It's fine.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
show me
yeah,
the evidence. What do you
that's-
got?
Well, at least have
Until then.
some sign of journalists wanting to find out more about the so-called facility, wanting to find out more about the supposed dates of these encounters, rather than Area 51, we knew it all along, or whatever. This is an incredibly gullible public. God, if we didn't learn that from 2020 to 2022, I don't know what. But they're not asking any questions. And of course, people are accusing Tucker of actually giving credence to the story by bringing it up. They're missing his point entirely, which is nobody is taking this up.
Yeah, you don't have to
It's
believe it, but we shouldn't be not talking about it. If
New York
nothing else,
Times
we
just
should
blowing
be.
it off completely.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that is the right thing to do. But given the number of column inches they devote to incredibly stupid stuff, why not a mention?
Well, if you actually had science writers writing for publications who took this claim seriously, in that they looked at it and said, we're going to approach this from an evidence-based perspective. Then, rather than getting a whole bunch of people to from now on believe that the government is lying to them about UFOs, which is what they're going to do by no journalist pursuing this.
Mm-hmm.
See, they're all lying to us. It just gets people farther and farther apart and farther up their trees. Just look into it. It's like the voter fraud thing, which I am now apparently allowed to say on YouTube. The accusations made about that. If anybody
there is an upside here, though.
Look into it.
No, there's an upside because the number of things you can basically suggest, you walk up to some woman and say, hey, would you like to go spend the night with me? That's not going to sound terribly good. But if he's like, hey, would you like to go out and look at the sky and hunt for UFOs? Now it's it's a quest, right? It's like there aren't many ways you can convince random women to go play with you in the woods overnight. So I don't know.
Nice job, Harry, turning that into something creepy.
Harry, the least successful pickup artist in the world.
Does it smell like chloroform?
Well, I mean, you used to be able to say, why don't you come up and see my etchings? It's like, nobody wants to see your etchings anymore. They've got the internet. The number of angles.
Teenagers are going to hear that sound bite and they're off to the races.
Well, there is this issue that you look at Gen Z, right? And they're hooking up less than like any generation ever. It's absolutely ridiculous. The level of isolation. Well, I mean, except for, 5% of males who are running around just sort of racking up this huge body count on Tinder. So except for these chads and I don't know all the lingo for this sort of stuff. There's a small number of men having a very large amount of sex with some number of women. And then there's a bunch of sad, lonely people that can't seem to make a connection. So I joke about there being very few ways that you can actually even just sort of say, can you come spend some time with me after dark without it sounding like you're going to get a hot Cosby, right? Yeah. So my little joke was sort of, along the lines of there are so few ways that somebody could actually just try to hook up that don't involve Tinder. Just come outside and do something with me after dark. So, it just seemed like an opportunity.
I swear to God, you need to make up the ingredients for a drink for a hot Cosby.
A hot Cosby?
Yes. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Send them to me. I will post them on Facebook.
Now put in the Rohypnol.
No, we'll have another one that's named after Michael Jackson, but it'll have propofol in it. We'll call it the Thriller, I think.
Oh.
Dead Celebrity Cocktails. New book by the Harry Channel. All right.
Actually, the author, Michael Williamson, whenever anybody well-known dies, comes up with a drink and posts it on Facebook. So when you said the hot Cosby, I immediately thought, oh my God.
Well, Astrid Gilberto passed away.
Pop. Pardon?
Astrid Gilberto passed away. So if we're going to make a cocktail for her, it's going to have to be made with flat 7-Up.
Flat 7-Up.
Yeah.
If you get that joke, congratulations.
It's a caipirinha made with flat 7-Up.
That works. People did not understand what they were listening to when they listened to her sing. They're just like, why is this woman singing and why is her singing so flat? Like, if I have to explain it to you, you just don't understand the kind of music she's singing. Desafinado. It's like to sing off key. It's the whole point of a lot of that sort of Brazilian Portuguese kind of, happy, fun music.
Yeah.
the whole bossa nova thing. It's like, I get that it's foreign to you, but once you get over the fact that it's not just pop music that's been auto-tuned, then you kind of realize what she was all about. Because the number of people who hate the song "The Girl from Ipanema" is pretty stunning. I've had
That
conversations
is
with
a
otherwise.
beautiful song.
I
love that.
I've
song.
had several combinations throughout my conversations throughout my life with otherwise rational, decent people who have an unbridled hatred of that song.
Tall and tan and young, the girl from Ipanema comes.
Ipanema
Love that
goes
song.
walking, and when she passes each one, she passes goes. Yeah. Oh, and it is those key changes that actually make the music sound flat.
Exactly.
It is
Plus
but it-
what time signature is.
yeah, it's
that-
a complex
and-
time signature. Nobody's singing flat. All right. Here's the thing. It's the key signatures and the time signatures are very complex.
Yeah, she's hitting the note. It's not her
She's
singing flat.
the right note. Yeah.
The notes just happen to be flats.
Yes. It's a really interesting sound. I mean,
Oh, it's just syncopated 4/4. I just looked it up.
but
But it was really novel. People
but
weren't used to it.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah.
Lorenzo Almeida, the guitarist,
Mhm.
the Brazilian guitarist, he did an album with Sammy Davis Jr. that is absolutely amazing.
Well, the song was
think of a
written
song
by,
like
was
The
it?
Shadow of Your Smile?
Well, the
that
song was
is-
by Jobim, right? Or Jobim, Antonio
Jobim.
Carlos Jobim. And then
Jobim.
it was her, Stan Getz, and her husband who
Mm-hmm.
performed it that got everybody's attention. And what was it? The Yao or I'm Shemp Gilberto, her husband.
Yeah,
And so the three of them performed this, and of course, it's a Jobim song. It's very foreign to people, and it's the same nerve that struck when people started listening to Sergio Mendes and Brazil '66,
Yes.
right?
My God.
Masquinada, and then
Masquinada, and
and
try
you
to
can
fit
get
all those
into-
words in.
you get into like the music that was written around Samba de Orpheus and all sorts of stuff. You may have noticed that I actually like this sort of stuff.
I love samba.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a particular sound to it. I find that I can't listen to it for hours and hours and hours. It's a sampling for me because then it becomes repetitive after
There's
a
some
while.
classical guitar pieces set to a samba rhythm that are absolutely exquisite to listen to. They're all over YouTube.
Yeah.
Well, it's
one of my
the reasons
favorite.
that-
Sorry, go ahead.
No, Jobim, Lorenzo Almeida. There's a sound to that music that is distinct from like Spanish guitar.
But you know who will surprise you? The surprising performer of this stuff that's great is Vince Guaraldi. Samba de Orfu. There's other stuff that's not Linus and Lucy that he did. And there's a whole other, I have a whole bunch of stuff set aside. We might talk about this sometime on a Saturday. But Vince Guaraldi did some really great stuff along those veins too. A lot of musicians, that sort of samba type thing really resonated. And it's a lot of the popularization of it started with Astrid Gilberto and her husband Shemp and Stan Getz, who I hear was kind of an asshole in real life, but whatever.
Who cares? He brought us Girl from Ipanema.
But it is sad that another one of the old-timey performers died at 83.
Yeah, it's still a pretty good run.
It's a pretty good run.
Same lifespan.
It
as
seems
Tina
awfully
Turner.
young to me.
She should
Yeah,
just
I
be,
know it.
fabulous and old into her 90s, just like eating fruit with a knife and fork in South America somewhere.
Right?
Well,
Makes me sad.
everybody should live as long as they're living to have one.
Exactly. And ride a bike
And be as
up till the
beautiful.
end.
No kidding.
And bright and intelligent and wonderful. Yeah, Olivia de Havilland was pretty good.
Spectacular broad.
Yeah. Who was the spread spectrum woman?
Spread spectrum.
Spread spectrum radio. She's one of the two people that came up with the ideas on the patent.
Hedy Lamar?
Was it Hedy Lamar?
No, she did.
It's Headley.
Just
kidding.
Shut up.
That's not Froggy.
No, what was it that Hedy worked on?
No, it might have been Hedy Lamar. Now that I think about it.
Hedy Lamar was the she helped with some sort of technological thing in World War II, didn't she?
Yeah, it's the thing that later became spread spectrum radio.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So you do the semi-random frequency jumping.
Yes, I have heard of that. I did not look that up.
And I love the people that love to denigrate her because it's like, yeah, but it was really so-and-so who did blah, blah, blah. And
shut up.
Look, the chick could do the math.
You can believe that some black guy invented the light bulb, but you can't believe that she was one of the co-inventors of spread spectrum radio. Exactly how bigoted are you?
Yeah, well, that's...
Well, the thing is that
the black dude was involved in the flight phone.
We did steal that from, it was Wakanda, right?
Yeah, no, that wasn't it. It's just a lot of people were working on the same thing, and the first asshole to hit the patent office, and Edison was quick on the draw on that patent office shit.
Yeah.
Nobody says that Thomas Edison was a good guy.
Snopes says about
but
who invented the light bulb.
You know, the whole Hedy Lamar thing. I just saw that recently, and I don't know if it's the trad wife crowd that have to go wah 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 at times.
What would they have to do with Hedy Lamar?
Oh, but they like shitting on women, okay?
Oh, no.
Because they think that makes them men because they're low T little beta cocks.
Women are great. Some men are great. Some women are great. Most people suck.
Yeah,
Next.
They do. Yeah, I mean, it's like...
just citing example. Okay, so statistically speaking, people say some huge percentage of mass shooters are white men. Okay, and then they look at white men and go, aren't you ashamed of the fact that all of these shooters are white men? It's like 99.99999% of white men are not mass shooters. They're just not. It's
statistically insignificant.
So I'm supposed to hold some kind of guilt because reasons? I mean, I'm not defending mass shooters.
To assume because somebody was more melanin enhanced that they might be a gangbanger.
But it's just people don't understand Bayesian analysis. Yeah. I mean, is it more likely that some mass shooter, if you know absolutely nothing, is going to be some sort of white male? Sure. Okay. Does that mean that your neighbor around the corner who happens to be a white male is probably a mass shooter? No, it doesn't. It doesn't have anything to do with it. I'm a uniter, not a divider.
No, it's like, okay, so 99.999% of all Nazis were German or Austrian. So does that mean that every person who has German or Austrian descent that you meet is a Nazi? Yeah,
probably.
No. Yeah, well, at that time, in Germany and Austria, at least they would tell you they were. But it's making assumptions. You know my point.
Yeah, I ran into an actual...
But it's utterly retarded kind of... It's regressive thinking.
Yeah. Well, I ran into, when I was a kid, I think I was in 5th grade at the time. There was this guy that I knew. He was good dude. And he was... his family was from the Philippines. He was like half Filipino. His mom was this German lady. Okay. And her dad was like this Filipino guy. I don't know. I just don't cancel me. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just an ignorant white dude. What do I know? So anyway, they loved each other very much and made this child who was my friend. And I went over to their house and stuff, and she had a lot of weird World War II memorabilia. I was not entirely sure what was going on with that woman. Especially for
somebody who hooked up with a Filipino guy.
Yeah, it was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, because
a lot of knives with symbols on them, and there's a lot of stuff there. I still to this day
Yeah, but it's
wonder
kinda
exactly what her
peculiar.
leaning was. It was.
Yeah, because given the axis
It's a thinker.
and how the other
Sure is.
member of the
Third
axis
puzzler.
didn't think the Filipinos were worth a shit. That's very selective racial reasoning on her part.
I don't know.
Or maybe it was all her dad's shit and she liked to remember what a shit bag he was.
Yeah, maybe.
I wouldn't have it up on display.
Well, you know, one of the-
underestimates the Filipinos, but that is an industrious bunch of people.
Yes,
Well-
they are. The Japanese hated them.
Yes.
Well, I told you one of the
Yes.
guns that I lost in that fishing accident was
Yes, indeed.
was one of those
Similar to
little
my
pocketable Czechoslovakian things that that were almost exclusively used by German military officers.
Oh, little
Sure.
pocket pals for Germans.
It was the little I'm out on the town with my Fraulein
Yep.
and eating their schnitzel in a Paris cafe or whatever, and that's the thing that you just keep with you when you're not in uniform.
It's your opera gun.
Yes.
Yeah, you won't catch the Nazi off of it because it's at the bottom of a lake. But you know, it's not like
Exactly.
it's not like it's imbued with secret Nazi energy just because it was a thing that happened to be
It's
in
just
World
a
War
gun.
II. People have memorabilia of things that are terrible. You know, I'm
Yes.
sure somewhere there's some guy who's got a piece of a girder that was in the Hindenburg. Yeah, here in my workshop, I got this girder that used to be part of the Hindenburg.
If you don't think some of the metal from some of the camps didn't get dispersed throughout Eastern Europe, you're crazy.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's. I mean, the U.S. and the British were racing each other for Messerschmitts. And both had seen plenty die at the hands of them.
Well, the Brits wanted to get their hands on the 262.
I know, and we were just utter shitbags, weren't we?
We really.
We really did fuck them on that
Shabbily.
one. But we've
Sorry,
Yeah.
we're not turning it over to you.
yeah, oh God, and I mean they were like, but you
We
promised.
shan't help you.
Yes, but we
Well, we
lied.
must insist upon a receipt. Here you go.
Yeah, here's the receipt.
Here you go, Nigel. Have a receipt.
Yeah, and he's flipping him off as he flies away in it. I mean,
Take real good care of your portion of this.
Yeah, the
Yeah, well, I
British
mean,
are-
it's not like, you know, with the Kohinoor diamond, they're really in a position to,
Yeah, they can't.
you know, be throwing
And
stones.
the Elgin marbles, and yeah, let's just not get into it.
I'm
At least-
actually surprised Sunak hasn't made some sort of move to give that back.
You know, but the thing is, at least these things were preserved for antiquity in the hands of people that don't like suddenly hurl themselves back. Oh, I don't know. 10, 12, or 13 centuries
Oh, okay.
and reinvent themselves.
If it's good enough for an illiterate desert,
Pedophile.
watch it, Harry. It's good
Did I
enough for
say
me,
Pedophile.
allegedly.
Yeah,
Allegedly.
but you know what I mean.
You waited till she was 12. What are you talking
You
about?
have really lovely.
Not really.
You had a really lovely culture until you decided to go all 7th century with it.
Yeah.
And at least it's in the hands of, well, people who are rapidly being overrun by people who would like to make it 7th century again. Although it would be amusing to see the Picts and the Anglo-Saxons and their intermittent Norse invaders face off with those 7th century guys.
Yeah. I have said so many things that are potentially going to get us in trouble. I'm sorry if this is our final Minions episode.
It's been great.
I
I
use
think it's all been couched in terms that most people at YouTube aren't smart enough to understand.
yeah,
You might be
hopefully.
Dude.
I'm sure we'll be streaming on Twitter in no time.
Yes, follow us on Rumble, y'all.
Ah,
All right. Well, I'm feeling like we're kind of running out of
Yes.
things to talk about and running out of energy. So
Please shoot me
Well,
now.
yes to number 2. I've got tons of stuff we could talk about, but the other one, I'm running a little low. But hi, Spud Gun. There's people saying hi to us in chat. Oh, Kiwi
Hi.
Dam.
Hi, and Keith, thank you for the song, honey.
Frosted Glass. Yeah, we've got lots of people watching. Fantastic. I'm sorry I haven't really been paying close attention to chat.
Gun, Frosted Glass, Badger's here, Devil Fruit Zero.
Hey, Camel.
Shroom is here. Retro Veteran Gamer. Let's see. I may have said Badger a minute ago. Shroom was here earlier. And
Aliens are here to get us laid. Nice. Thanks, Frosted.
Anyway, Cryptic was here. Hey, Cryptic, if you're still here. Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, Camel. Drop by.
Yep.
Rotten Corpse. Everybody. Lots of people saying that. Hey, so we appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been great. Yeah, I've been enjoying having a little bit of a shorter show in the last couple of times we've done this, and streaming less and enjoying it more. I think that might be a trend. But at any rate, we have been your minions of the zoo tonight. Thank you guys for coming out, listening to us. Thank you, chat. We do this for you guys, and love hearing what you have to say. And we'll be doing it again next week. And of course, on Harry's channel, on Saturday, we'll be streaming over there, also to Minions.
In glorious 4K.
In glorious 4K. Man, don't get any better than that. So anyway, high quality, if not high quantity. And that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It's been a treat for me, too. And